the club plays macros. What's that though? It's a Louis back though.
Holy shit, I rolled the split, choke hold the beat. Flip that, then I sold the shit. Got my wrist on spray, now it's cold as shit. Only you boneless, if you got a bone to pick, I tell you go to strip. While I pull up in that stolen whip, while snacking and I pulling tricks. The only rabbit here is me, I hop on any beat and treat it like Play-Doh and mold this shit. Bitch, I promise.
Yo, it's Zero, and this is part 2 of What If Naruto Was Raised by Yoriichi. Thank you guys for so much support on part 1, and I'd appreciate it if you guys left a like on this video. Without any more wait, let's get started with the recap of the first part. In part 1, Naruto ran away from the Leaf Village to discover the home of the Sun Samurai, Yoriichi, and his family. Naruto was quickly adopted and given the name Taiyo by the swordsman and is now being raised as if he was his own. Now we can hop back into the story. Taiyo would keep his breathing training going for another 3 months until one day, while he was meditating underwater, a man appeared underwater with him. Taiyo stared off at the man who resembled his father. Taiyo, however, did not stop his training, and when he saw the sun begin to set from under the water, he swam to the top, taking a breath. Taiyo shook his black hair around and put it up in a ponytail. The strange man followed behind Taiyo, coming out of the water. The man then noticed his sun earrings. "So, you are my family. That's strange. I don't remember my brother having 2 kids." Taiyo looked up at the man, whose earrings were moons instead of suns. "You're my uncle, aren't you?" The man smirked while standing with grace. "Yes, my name is Kokushibo. And you?" "My name is Taiyo." "I see. So my brother gave you the name of Sun. How interesting." Taiyo then begins to walk away, but he noticed the man wasn't following him, so he turns back to his uncle. "Aren't you coming too?" And this is when Kokushibo falls over from exhaustion. And in a flash, Taiyo speeds up to catch him. And when night falls, the torches are lit by Yoriichi as he sits and waits for his son to return in front of his house. His training should have been done by now. I wonder what is taking him so long. This is when he sees Taiyo carrying his elder brother. Yoriichi runs forward, taking his brother into his home. Taiyo would smile at his younger sister, who was also outside. "He's pretty heavy." His sister would laugh, and she heads inside to take care of him as well. Taiyo would sit on the outside of the house, guarding his family while they took care of his uncle. As he sits there, he watches the torches burn gracefully. As he then stands up, he walks towards them as if something or the torches were calling him. They were asking him to perform all 13 forms, and his feet then began to move on their own as he goes through every sun-breathing form, 1 through 13. And they were done gracefully with Taiyo's wooden sword, except no flames were produced. He only knows the basics for now, and when he finished, he bowed to the flames in respect as he hears clapping. His whole family stood behind him in amazement. Yoriichi walked to his son. "How many breaths did it take you to do?" The black-haired boy looked up at his father. "Only 2. Yoriichi smiles while rubbing his hair. "You're progressing faster and faster each day." Taiyo smiles. "Father, would it be okay if I became a samurai like you?" Yoriichi hugged his son. "You can choose whatever path you want to go down, but for that to happen, you'll have to pass the final selection test." Taiyo will be confused, and this is when the two of them hear a voice from behind. "So, younger brother, you haven't told him anything yet, have you?" Kokushibo smiled at Taiyo. "Well, first you'll need a trial sword to actually take the test, so here," he says while tossing him a blade that he would catch. "Don't worry, if it breaks, you'll be fine. At least I think so, unless that man appears here." Taiyo nods, looking back up at his father. "You have about 1 more month before you can actually join the samurais, because that is when the test will be held. But even at your age, I think you'd be an amazing swordsman, my son. And that is because you care about people as much as I do. Taio's eyes then light up with excitement as he runs in the house to tell his mother and sister that he will become a strong samurai. For the next month, Taio undergoes even harder training than before. He had to be blindfolded on certain parts and rely on all his other senses. When him and his father occasionally sparred, his uncle would hit him with surprise attacks to throw him off his game. Taio's breathing training also had increased. Then, at night, he had to practice all 13 forms of the sun, and his uncle would occasionally give him a separate teaching. But he did them over and over until he did each one perfectly. After the month's time is up, Taio would smile as he heads north to the Samurai Foundation. But as he turns around to hug his sister Suki, he says, "I'll be back, I promise. I'm gonna miss you, big brother." Taio would wipe her tears, "Then I'll be back faster so you don't have to miss me. Father, uncle, thank you for everything." Taio would then hug his mother as she kisses him on his head, and then he leaves their home. Taio would travel for days until reaching a beautiful land that will have bright flowers everywhere. As he then keeps walking, he accidentally bumps into a boy and his sister while looking at the amazing flowers. "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going." Taio then bows his head, but the boy picks it up and then looks at him. "Hi, my name is Tanjiro, and this is my little sister, Nezuko. We came to become samurai. Did you?" Taio smiles. "I did indeed. I also have a younger sister, and I came here to get stronger so that I can protect her." Tanjiro smiles. "From this day forth then, we'll be friends, Taio, and we'll protect our sisters." Nezuko then hits Tanjiro on his head saying, "I'll protect you too." They all smile and laugh, and this is when a man in all white appears, and everyone would bow. "Thank you all for coming to our event held once a year. I'll expect you all to do your best heading forth into the forest of beasts in danger. There should be a mountain, and that is your end goal. Once you reach the top, you'll become samurai. Good luck to all of you. I hope to see you there." Everyone then begins to panic, scattering and trampling each other as they try to get a head start. In the confusion, Tanjiro had lost sight of his sister, but he kept her scent in his mind. Eventually, after most people were gone, Tanjiro saw a bee up and stepped on Taio, who was hovering over Nezuko, protecting her. Taio got up and Tanjiro thanked him. And then he said, "You can thank me by meeting me at the top of the mountain, my friend." Tanjiro nodded, and in a flash, with one step, Taio was gone. Through the forest, he ran, not making a single noise. From behind Taio, he saw a giant bear, who was gaining speed on him. The bear looked sort of demonic, and as the bear then slashed his claws at him from a behind angle, Taio began to breathe as he popped his sword out, focusing. Breath of the sun, fifth form, setting sun. As Taio then did a backflip, cutting the demonic creature wide open. It falls to the ground, and it will be dead. Taio then prays over the creature, and out of nowhere, a slash came from a blade that was very different. It was a shredded blade, but then another came. And this is when Taio saw an older kid who was wearing a strange boar mask. And he had no shirt on. "Oh, it's just another participant. Well, good luck," he said as he then ran past him. And the kid in the boar mask would wonder what that was. He would think, "When I did my first attack, I thought he killed me. But I'm still alive. That was strange." It's like he saw his own death from the slightest movement of that boy. Taio would then be going through the trials with ease, demonstrating his power in this forest. And he climbed the mountain, going higher and higher while killing beasts. And on the top, he saw people that attacked him on his way there. And even though he didn't want to, he killed them as well. Taiyo noticed he was the first to arrive on the top of the mountain. So, what he did was sit and wait with his uncle's blade in his lap. This is when the Grand Master came up to him. I expect no less from the son of Yoriichi, the greatest Hashira to ever live. Taiyo sits there and looks up. He never told me that. Really? Well, he wasn't a man to brag about his skills. He only honed them further. The Grand Master bows, walking away. Taiyo had only arrived in 1 day and several hours, so he waited night and day, only using tiniest breath to survive, and eventually, after a week, everyone else had arrived, including Tanjiro and Nezuko, and the kid who wore the boar hat. Tanjiro, when arriving, ran up to Taiyo, who was still sitting down. "Hey Taiyo, when did you arrive, my friend?" "In 1 day." Tanjiro's facial expression became one of shock at the sheer power of a kid who was much younger than him. The Grand Master would then appear. "Well, it seems that everyone was here. You are the ones who survived and passed, and I have no doubt you will all help to change the world. Return to your homes, and I'll have swords sent your way. Thank you all for participating. Oh, and here's a special gift. These birds will tell you when each of your missions will take part, as this is when crows fly to all of them. But Taiyo wouldn't get a bird. From out of nowhere, a hawk would land on his shoulder. "Oh, how pretty," he says while looking at the hawk, as everyone then looks at him. Everyone begins to talk and whisper, as someone would then shout, "Hey kid, how old are you?" Because this was the question on everyone's minds. And Taiyo, still not being the smartest person, his heart would drop, as he then begins counting on his fingers, not being very good at math. As he then holds up 9 fingers, I think 8. Everyone would laugh, but then stare at him in shock. Tanjiro, who was sitting next to him, smiles. This number means 8, as he corrects his fingers. "And that's amazing. You're so young but so strong." From behind Taiyo was the Grand Master. "Do you mind showing off your breath styles to give an impression off on everyone here for me? It'll push them to become stronger." Taiyo nods and then steps into some free space, as he then performs all 13 forms perfectly. Everyone would clap, and then the kid from the forest who had worn the boar mask ran over to him. And then he slashed down at him, but the blades were caught, and only a slight bit of blood was drawn from Taiyo's hand, as he then said, "I'm sorry, I don't want to fight anymore." Taiyo gripped the sword, flipping the man over himself. Taiyo then began to pick up his things, as him and Tanjiro and Nezuko would walk, as they would eventually reach a river that would separate their paths. Taiyo then returns home and is greeted by his family. He returns the sword to his uncle. As they would sit down for dinner, his sister says, "I thought you got a bird." But this is when a hawk flies in, sitting in the window. And then they all smile. They would wait for days, and then a man with a red mask would appear. Is this the home of the new samurai, Taiyo? Yoriichi nods, letting the man in his home. And eventually, Taiyo would come back from playing with his sister. As he then sees the man, he would bow, sitting with them. "Here's your sword. I worked night and day on it. Hearing how young you were, I had to make it a little bit shorter to fit your size. But don't worry, as you grow older, I'll eventually get you a new one. So please don't destroy this one." He hands Taiyo the sword, and as he pulls it out, he then stops, heading outside. Then he would pull out the blade as it becomes dark blue with a crimson red layer. Taiyo smiles as he says, "Breath of the sun, 3rd form, bone-burning sun," as he spins around, creating larger flames that disappeared into the air. Taiyo would bow to the man as he left, and after this, he would rest for days. Actually, not even that. He would rest for weeks until his hawk finally spoke to him. "Taiyo, the Grand Master requests that you travel to the Land of Stone to help out Tanjiro and Nezuko, who face a great evil. Taiyo gripped his blade, saying, "I'll be back," as they all smile as he ran out the door with no hesitation. The hawk guides him day and night until he finally reaches the place, and as Tanjiro was about to be struck down by the man, the attack was deflected by Taiyo, who said, "Breath of the Sun, sixth form, soaring flame haze."